Every year, Thomas Messick Sr. and a group of his family and friends would go hunting at a family cabin. The cabin was located northeast of Brant Lake, and it was a perfect place to relax, bond, and hunt. Most of the time, they would hunt near the cabin, but this time, they decided to head to Lily Pond Lake, just south of Brant Lake. After they locked in their plans for the day, the group walked to their designated spot, and that was the last time anyone saw Tom Messick again. So, what happened to Tom? Welcome back to Cup of Joe with Joe. I'm your host, Joe, and I'm here with my co-host, Dave.
Hello, everyone.
Today we dive into a chilling case that has puzzled many people, the disappearance of Tom Messick in the Adirondack Mountains of northeastern New York.
Just a reminder to keep in mind that our full source list is available on our website, cupofjoewithjoe.com.
All right, let's get started. On November 15, 2015, a group of seasoned hunters set out for a day of deer hunting in a remote area near Brant Lake in New York. Among them was 82-year-old Tom Messick. He was an experienced outdoorsman who had military background and spent decades in the wild. He even taught some hunting classes. As usual, Tom was hunting with family and friends. They were a close-knit group that had shared countless of adventures over the years. This particular day, they chose a spot that was unfamiliar to them near Lily Pond Lake, just south of Brant Lake. The hunters divided into two groups. The older members, Rasmussen, Sid Sharp, Joe Capelli, and Tom stationed along Lily Road as the hunter-watcher party, while the two younger, Rob Messick and Roland Gendron, the hunter-pusher party, ventured deeper into the woods. The plan was simple. The younger hunters would drive deer toward the older members, waiting to take their shots. Tom settled on a tree stump, ready for the hunt. It's likely he sat there eating his snacks, waiting patiently for deer to approach his location. But as the hours passed, the younger hunters returned to their vehicles. They couldn't find any game in that area, and the area was silent. It was strange, but what was stranger was Tom was missing. They called out for him, but there was no response. When they dispersed, Tom had his walkie-talkie. He should have responded immediately. Before succumbing to the panic, they decided to do a quick search. Although unlikely, maybe he got lost. At worst, his health issues, which include essentially losing his right eye due to an accident, some hearing loss, and heart problems, got the best of him, and he suffered a medical emergency. And they were now looking for his body. As evening was setting in, though, panic was also setting in. Where is he? They fired shots into the air, hoping to attract his attention. They continued to try to reach him in his walkie-talkie, but still no response, and they couldn't hear anything in the dead silent forest. As darkness fell, the group split up, searching desperately until they could no longer see. The next morning, an extensive search began. The operation mobilized over 300 searchers who combed through 29 square miles of rugged terrain, using helicopters, search dogs, and infrared technology. Specifically, there was an emergency response team that was made up of 13 team members. The Air National Guard was using infrared. State police had helicopters. There were volunteers, a dozen or so fire departments. New York State Corrections came out and searched with their canine units. The volunteers walking were doing bump lines, where they would walk with a string, create a grid to mark it, and when they reached the end, they would tie it off. They knew that area was thoroughly covered, and then would move on to check another area and so on. By the end of the day, it looked like a spider web. A strange thing that happened during their search, though, was the FBI showing up. It was strange, because the FBI doesn't get involved in local disappearances. This is obviously something that the local police departments take care of, but in Tom's case, the FBI thought it was part of their jurisdiction. We will discuss more about this later. Time passed, and despite their tireless efforts, not a single trace of Tom Messick was found. The official search was called off after 11 days, but the mystery surrounding his disappearance only deepened. Speculation ran rampant, and Tom's family feared the worst. He was an experienced outdoorsman, But he faced challenges. He was 82. He was missing one eye, had a history of heart problems, and aside from his gun and walkie-talkie, he only carried a small snack with him. He wasn't expecting to stay there for a long period of time. Did he suffer a medical emergency? Did he get lost? Some even consider the possibility of foul play, or something more mysterious. Sid reported hearing a strange noise in the woods that day, something that sounded like a snap or maybe a trap door closing. Theories about his disappearance continued to circulate, drawing interest from online sleuths and amateur investigators alike. Some even suggested extraterrestrial involvement, and with that, let's take a look at the theories. The first theory, as mentioned early on, is that given Tom's age, he was 82, compounded with his health issues, it resulted in him suffering a medical emergency, such as a heart attack or maybe a stroke, which led him to become incapacitated. Although, the issue with this theory is that they couldn't find a body, which should have been fairly easy to find, considering that the group knew where he should have been located and the search dogs and volunteers searched the area meticulously. Something should have been found, but nothing was. Not his clothes, gun, a candy wrapper, nothing. Theory number 2. The second theory is that he fell into a trap. Whether it was a man-made trap or a natural trap, Sid mentioned that he heard a strange sound that day, which may have sounded like a metal door closing. Basically, a very quick sound and what Sid's son assumed to be a metal sound. This sound is interesting, but it didn't come from where Tom was supposed to be stationed. Instead of the sound being north of Sid, it came from the west. Theory number 3. The third theory is that he encountered foul play, or maybe he was abducted by another person, which isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. This is a remote area, but you can obviously still encounter people wherever you may go, no matter how remote. I actually did find an example of a cyclist who was hit by a truck in a remote area of Scotland. Tony Parsons was cycling on a remote Scottish Highland roadside when twin brothers Alexander and Robert McKellar hit the cyclist and left him to die. To cover their tracks, they hid him in a pit used for animal carcasses. Tony disappeared, and it wasn't until 3 years later that the girlfriend of one of the twins went to the police with this information. From there, they found his body and were able to prosecute the twins. But back to Tom's case. Although there was no evidence of a struggle or of anyone other than the group to be there, it is possible that something was missed, like in Tony's situation. Theory number 4. Theory number 4 is that he became disoriented and wandered far from where he had last been seen. Maybe because he was older and he was getting confused more often. Either way, I have to believe he would have tried to use his survival skills, considering it was something that was ingrained in him. In my mind, he would at least have shot his gun to signal where he was. But again, search dogs didn't find anything, and the search in the area was a thorough one. Theory number 5. Theory number 5, he might have been attacked by a predator. He was the furthest one from the group and was the most likely to be attacked. Although, the most likely animal to attack him would be a black bear. And while attacks by black bears in the area are possible, they are highly unlikely. It was reported in 2022 that there is one fatal attack per year. And while you should respect black bears, if you make any noise, you should be able to scare them away. Tom had a gun, so if he needed to, he could use it to make noise and scare a bear away. Also, the woods were silent, so the other hunters should have heard something if he was getting attacked, but there wasn't a single sound that day. There was also no blood or signs of a struggle. Again, his clothes, walkie-talkie, or gun were nowhere to be found, and if there was an attack, the search dogs would have definitely pointed at something. Theory number 6 is from David Paulides. He mentions it in the documentary Missing 411: The Hunted, that there were many unexplained disappearances in national parks and wilderness areas. Paulides suggests that Messick's case fits a pattern of unusual disappearances involving people with no traces left behind, in areas with steep terrain, water, and often under mysterious circumstances. He even discusses a disappearance that happened in the same area that occurred 9 days after Messick's disappearance. Fritz Drum, 68, also disappeared, but in this case, it was from his home, which had 150 acres. On Thanksgiving Day of 2015, Drum's wife attended a banquet, and when she returned, her husband was gone. She didn't report him missing until the following day, but it was a similar type of search as in Tom's case, where there were helicopters, canines, and an overall extensive search for Fritz as well. Is this why the FBI felt the need to be involved? What happened to these two men? Where did they disappear to?
All right, here's your boy David providing theory number 7. This last theory is my personal favorite. Did Tom Messick disappear due to paranormal reasons? Did a Bigfoot snatch him up? Did aliens abduct him? Or the most likely, did a portal to another dimension or an alternate universe open up and take him to another place? Given that the state police, local police, the FBI, firefighters, and hundreds of local volunteers searched for him using every possible method known to man, and they couldn't find a trace, not a hair, not a candy wrapper, not even his walkie-talkie would be heard from again. That means he was either never there, and all of his family and friends are liars, or something supernaturally potentially took him, leaving no trace. However, the family and friends look believable, and it's difficult to get that many people to agree on a single unchanging story. There are also no motives found for them to collaborate on his disappearance. There's many ideas floating around the internet that our world may be shared with creatures or entities that we cannot see, but that they might be able to manipulate our world, such as how skinwalkers and Sasquatch can pop in and out of our dimension, and that is why they are so elusive, yet they are sometimes seen. Think of us like ants, and they are like people. Ants are busy and unaware of the much more complex life of humans going on around them, and we can easily pick up ants and manipulate their world. What if there's a creature out there in another dimension living parallel to ours that can just pick us up like ants? What if those creatures set up traps to hunt humans? After all, one of Tom's friends heard a quick metallic sound described almost like a trap door closing. This is just a few ideas to spin your gears, but I personally think the story is more mundane and simpler.
Oh, well, thanks for that one. So, what are your thoughts on this case? What's your actual favorite theory? I'm assuming it's something else.
My theory is that there was a sinkhole, maybe 1 foot by 1 foot, covered in leaves and tree branches, and he fell through it. Maybe that was the sound that one of the friends heard. It was maybe the sound of his gear or his gun hitting the sides of the rocks as he fell down the sinkhole. Maybe the reason that we didn't find any evidence is because Tom is an experienced hunter and therefore would not leave any trash behind. So if he disappeared in a sinkhole, I doubt he just had candy wrappers laying on the ground anyway. And if they're trying to contact his walkie-talkie, probably if you're in a sinkhole, I don't know how many feet underground, you're probably not going to have very good reception. Although the volunteers and searchers use all kinds of techniques to search the area and they couldn't find a trace, I think it's still easy to miss a few spots. And those few spots missed might have been the area where Tom fell through into the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of have a similar theory where I think maybe he did like walk around just because, yeah, it's kind of boring just to sit there. He would move. I don't know how far he could have gone because even his friend said that it was not the direction of
He
Tom.
Probably stayed within eyesight of the tree stump.
Yeah, But either way,
maybe he got up to see if there was a deer coming. Maybe he heard something in the woods, and maybe he got up for a few seconds and walked a few paces and saw. Maybe he thought he saw a deer or something coming his way.
Yeah, that might be possible. Because if you're gonna, maybe he's gonna follow it or something. But I also think it's possible that, maybe someone did take him, because you could still drive a vehicle. Although we watched a YouTuber.
Yeah, we watched the Lore Lodge. Great channel.
Yes, and he went about 100 yards into that, specifically that.
Him and one of his friends went into the same exact area. And
he was just talking normally, and his friend could still hear him.
Yeah, and we could hear him clearly on the camera microphone as well. And keep in mind, this seemed to be in a warmer season, so there was more leaves and more brush on the ground. There was more things to absorb sound, as opposed to fall, November.
Yeah,
whenever there's less leaves and things around, where I would imagine sound would probably travel a little bit better during that time of year. Sound would probably travel a bit better during that season, due to there being less leaves and less foliage and less greenery.
Yeah, and that's what's really weird, because how could someone go missing? Like, you should hear something. Even if you're falling, don't you maybe scream? I would assume even a sound. Which, sure, that sound that the friend heard, that was really fast sound though. Like, it was, what I imagine is like a clap, kind of, where it's very quick and it just happens like so suddenly.
Well, yeah, it was a very quick sound, very sudden sound, but he said it sounded metallic.
Yeah, metallic, but I just meant like it's
if I haven't heard too many people fall down a sinkhole to their death, but I imagine if they did, it would probably be a weird sound as things fall and hit the rocks on the way down. Maybe their screams on the way down also make a weird sound, weird echo.
Yeah.
But given Tom's age of 82, I don't think it was his scream or yelling or anything. I think maybe.
Yeah, why wasn't there any sort of sound? Why? Regardless of what could have happened to him, there was no sound at all, which I just find so weird. Unless, even if it was an animal still is gonna make sound, or he's gonna leave tracks or something, just because he has to carry a body, which, it's gonna be.
And we'd have to talk about it being a seriously deep sinkhole for him to. We'd have to imagine if he fell through a sinkhole, he would have to lose consciousness pretty quickly due to impact or lack of oxygen. Otherwise, he could just scream for help.
Yeah, I would assume that it's going to be lack of oxygen, so it would have to be something. Yeah, that's just weird though, considering.
But he would still be alive long enough to call for help, so somebody would have heard him.
Yeah, and even with a walkie-talkie, you press a button and then someone has a weird.
I don't know how. I don't know if they were walking around pressing the walkie-talkie button. I don't know how many of you have used the walkie-talkie, but when you press a walkie-talkie button, you'll get the sound on the other end.
Or whenever you press the other one, where it's like.
I think you can do a panic sound or a call sound also, where it kind of beeps the other walkie-talkies as well.
Yeah, he could have done any sort of sound, which, I know that there's one of the theories is that maybe he just got lost. Maybe he just wasn't thinking properly or what, for whatever reason. But even then, I think his survival instincts would be really strong in him, and that he would do whatever necessary in order to get someone's attention. Because if he is by himself, he would go out to search for someone or something to try to help him. It seems that he was so experienced that he would have done that automatically. And so the only way would be that he was incapacitated immediately whenever he disappeared. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If he fell in a sinkhole, I think he would have to be incapacitated immediately. I don't think he would just sit around and wait. I think he had a gun on him, he had a radio on him. He would use everything at his disposal to get attention and get help, which they didn't find his shredded evidence or any sound or anything signifying that he was even there that day. There's some rumors even that they might have been foul play and that he was never there that day, but I don't want to go down that route because due to respect to the family. But yeah, there's some weird ideas out there as to what happened due to the lack of evidence and there being so many people out there that knew him on that same day, his friends and family. I also heard that the metallic sound potentially was a pickup bed closing.
Yeah.
So there's a theory that maybe somebody incapacitated him and loaded his body up and shut the pickup, and that was the metallic sound, and then they sped off. But wouldn't you hear the pickup also? Because the YouTuber went out there and they did a bunch of sound tests, and you could easily hear somebody 100 meters down in the woods.
You definitely hear a pickup truck.
You could hear a pickup truck, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. It's still very strange, mysterious.
Maybe the metallic sound was a portal to another dimension.
Probably. Okay. Despite the passage of time, the investigation remains open. The New York State Police have stated that they are still pursuing leads, but unfortunately, no concrete ideas about what happened to Tom have been disclosed. As we wrap up today's episode, it's important to remember Tom Messick not just as a missing person, but as a beloved father and friend. His family continues to honor his memory and cling to the hope that someday they might find answers. If you have any information regarding Tom's disappearance, please remember to contact the local authorities. And thanks again for joining us on this episode of Cup of Joe with Joe. Let us know your thoughts on this case and what you would like to hear next. Until next time.
See you guys next time.